Have you been told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Stephanie Lynn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club. Hello, my dear highly sensitive person, and welcome to the very first episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. I am Steph, and I am obviously very excited and honored that you're here for this episode and that you're allowing me to be a part of your journey. I have been bubbling over for a while with ideas and stories. You should see my content ideas note. It's ridiculous. And it's all about high sensitivity. I think it's really going to help you not only manage your high sensitivity, but turn it into a superpower as well. It truly is a gift, even though it comes with a unique set of challenges. That is true. These episodes are here to help spark new ideas and insights about you and your life as a highly sensitive person, so you can embrace the trait and use it to level up anything you want in your life to improve. What I'm going to share with you is going to be extremely helpful if you, A, know you're a highly sensitive person, aka an HSP, B, if you had some kind of nudge from the universe to find out more about high sensitivity, or C, if you love a highly sensitive person and want to learn more about the trait. If any of these sound like you're in exactly the right place. I'm a highly sensitive person and a certified life coach, so I am very familiar with the 3 stages I'm going to talk about today of living with high sensitivity. Stage 1 is surviving with high sensitivity. Stage 2 is managing high sensitivity. And stage 3 is thriving with high sensitivity. I've designed my life to completely support and enhance my high sensitivity, and I'm so grateful that I get to wake up pretty much every day feeling like I'm living my life on purpose with a lot of passion and intention. And that has been hard won. It is really easy to fall back into default and just go with old habits and old patterns, but building this intentionally just makes it so much better. Most days, I wake up naturally after about 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I set my own schedule with plenty of downtime. I wear super comfy clothes. I have a dedicated workspace with all my favorite supplies. And I've built a career and a business around having deep conversations where I get to guide my clients and students with my empathy, with my insights, and with my deeper listening skills. My relationships are rich and connecting. My energy levels stay balanced and consistent throughout the day and throughout the week. And I take much better care of my body and my spirit than I did even 10 or 15 years ago. There are always things I'm refining and improving because I just love to learn and grow. But for the most part, I've built exactly the life that I want. If that sounds pretty awesome to you, which I hope it does because I love this life and I feel like most highly sensitive people want something like this. I 100% believe that you can build a life like this around your high sensitivity and you can love it because I've done it and I've helped my clients do it too. However, this wasn't always the way it was for me. In fact, there was a time in my life when I had literally all the worst symptoms of having a dysfunctional relationship with my high sensitivity. I was definitely in phase 1, surviving. I soaked up other people's emotions and stress every day, and then I felt them in my body, sometimes for days or even weeks after the conversation or interaction. If you've ever had one of those high conflict, kind of aggressive conversations with someone that's still hitting you weeks later, you are probably surviving with high sensitivity too. I was, and still am, a high achiever, but at the time, I was specifically looking to achieve outside validation and approval. So I was always looking for the A or for a boss to tell me, nice job. So I was constantly working and pushing myself way past my limits. I didn't even want to recognize that I had limits. I was burning out. I was feeling either resentful or numb. And then I would take time off to have to recover because I was so tired from all of the work that I was doing. And then the cycle would just start over and over and over. I let my perfectionism and my inner critic take over pretty much every aspect of my life. So I constantly felt like not only was I not doing enough, but that I personally was not enough. I literally didn't know what boundaries were until I got into therapy. And there was even a time when I was anxious about going outside for walks in my neighborhood, which was a very safe neighborhood. But I was worried about people seeing me and judging me. That's how bad it was. My life now is night and day from that previous version of me. And I regularly send her so much love and compassion for doing the best that she could at the time. I heard about high sensitivity 15 years ago when a friend and I were talking about our experiences, and she said she'd started reading about this trait and she was pretty sure she was an HSP. I didn't really think that much of it at the time, but years later I thought back to it because it had planted a seed that grew slowly for a few years until I was ready to own it about myself too. For those of you that don't know, a phoenix is a mythical creature that, when it reaches the end of its life, it bursts into flame and turns into ashes and then is reborn from those ashes. You probably have had many moments of starting over in your life, but I call those my phoenix moments. So, my big phoenix moment that really turned things around was 10 years ago, 5 years after I'd first heard about high sensitivity. And it was after I'd spent half a year living abroad in Italy. Living in another country was a huge eye opener for me, let alone the fact that it was Italy. I mean, come on, I can recognize my own privilege there, and it was amazing. But besides just being in such a beautiful place and speaking a different language, it got me out of my routines and the rut that I didn't know I'd gotten myself stuck in. I got to see my life from a different perspective, which, in my opinion, is one of the best parts of travel. And I literally lived in a more free, open, creative way than I had back home for pretty much my entire life. None of this is to say I had a bad life or a troubled upbringing. It isn't anyone's fault that I didn't have healthy coping skills and that I didn't know how to decide, let alone communicate what I wanted. It also wasn't my fault either. None of this is to say that I'm blaming anyone. In fact, at the time, I thought that I was super mature and healthy. I simply didn't know that my brain worked differently and my body worked differently. So I had developed skills that I had picked up that could get me by, that I just thought was the way that it was. Skills like people pleasing, like deferring to other people's preferences to make decisions, to observing from the sidelines until I felt absolutely 110% certain I would be good at something before I even tried it. I thought that's how you were just supposed to live. Things changed when I started doing the deep healing that I needed in therapy and then taking that to the next level with coaching and studying high sensitivity. Coming back after my big wake up call in Italy meant I had work to do. I experienced a deep depression and a lot of anxiety for those first 6 months after I got home. And it was the catalyst for me to realize that I had actually felt that several times before when I was even in middle school and in high school. And I thought that depression and burnout were just normal. I found a counselor, and Anne's office became my safe container on and off for about 4 years from that point on. I remember specifically having a conversation with her where I was complaining about someone else overreacting, because of course it's someone else's fault, and how I wished they wouldn't get so upset because it was stressing me out. And she said, "You don't have to feel other people's emotions for them." What? Like, it literally blew my brain. I was stunned into silence. I gaped at her with my mouth open. My mouth was hanging open. And I finally said, "I don't know what that means. How do you not feel other people's emotions?" And that was the beginning of our first conversation about boundaries, which I then continued with books and podcasts and following people so that I could really learn how to do this better over time. And I still work on figuring out what my current boundaries are and communicating to those two people in a respectful and honest way. That was one of many turning points that helped me rebuild my life from the ground up, and one of the conversations that stuck with me in particular. A lot of my relationships changed or ended during that time, from romantic partners to friendships, and even my family relationships changed too. I chose new relationships based on the way I was learning to be more mutual, more vulnerable, less codependent, less trying to give so much of myself to prove that I was worthy of love. I took full responsibility for myself and my own well being instead of getting caught up in other people's lives trying to fix their stuff so that I didn't have to deal with mine. And spoiler alert, That doesn't work. You can influence people, you might be able to change some things, but if they really want to make lasting transformation for themselves, they have to choose it. There's nothing you can do to control them or make them do something. When I realized that, that's when I moved into phase two, managing my high sensitivity. I learned how to balance my trait by planning for recovery time on a regular basis, not until I ignored the signals until I got burnt out and had to stop. I took more care buying comfortable clothes, especially that feeling that something's too tight, or if I was adjusting it constantly throughout the day, it had to go. I need to have comfortable clothes because I have more important things to do with my energy. And I invested in healthy skincare products because it does make a big difference to feel good, even in small ways. I used my partner and my friendships for help and support. I asked them in a really vulnerable way. Sometimes this is still scary for me because I felt before like I had to do it all by myself and that I constantly had to be the superhero who never needed help and was completely independent of everybody else, except when I was giving help to them. It took some retraining to figure out how to ask for help from other people and to lean on my loved ones who were more than willing to do that for me because I can't do it all alone. I also started looking for a new career path at that time. I graduated from The Ohio State University with an English and Italian double major degree, Bachelor in Arts. And that last semester that I spent at college being very depressed and trying to figure out my life was taking a bunch of Italian classes so I could double major. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up at that point, but I did know that I had learned the skills of communicating, thinking outside the box, problem solving, and thinking critically about things so that I could figure out the best way to move forward. That's when I decided to open my first business as a professional organizer and a certified KonMari consultant. I had done a KonMari tidying festival and decluttered 2/3 of my stuff. And I felt so free from the past in this inexplicable way that I understand a lot better now, but felt very magical at the time. I became a declutter expert because I wanted to help people feel that calm and that relaxation in their spaces the way I had, because they were getting rid of all that stuff that was weighing them down, both physically and mentally. I knew how important that was for me as a highly sensitive person. And doing that work was the first step in fully owning my own time and doing work that lights me up, not just bringing in a paycheck. During that time, I studied highly sensitive people for really real this time. And I did it for fun because I love to learn and grow. I read Dr. Elaine Aron's books, starting with The Highly Sensitive Person, which is the go-to manual for HSPs. If you're looking for a book to start with, start there. I listened to podcasts and I read articles about self-development from other highly sensitive people. And after I graduated, quote unquote, therapy, my first coach was also a specialist in highly sensitive people. Throughout the years, I started seeing the trait in others because I'd been studying it so much and immersing myself in this trait. I started to see things like people getting overstimulated by crowds or loud noises, or even just too much busy work, stuff that other people thought was totally fine and normal. Caring about things like hobbies or fandoms and getting super deep with them, and soaking up other people's emotions and their drama like a sponge, and then carrying it around and not knowing what to do with it. When I shared that those people might be highly sensitive and I explained it to them, I could see this light bulb go off. Something would click into place and they'd say, "Oh my gosh, that's me. I still get this. I actually got this earlier in the week. Wow, that really sounds like me." Or, "I thought it was this other thing, but this actually makes way more sense." I felt so passionate about self-development and helping others in these new, healthier ways, not the codependent, trying to fix them, trying to get in on their business and do it the way that I thought they should be doing it kind of way, but the way where I had learned how to support myself and I wanted to help other people learn how to support themselves as well. That's when I started exploring life coaching. It took me years to finally build up the courage to go for it. But 2 years ago, I made the leap to join a certification program in 2022, and it has changed my life and it's changed my clients' lives too. That's when I started to go into stage 3, thriving with high sensitivity. I walked away from a successful organizing business because I was so passionate about helping highly sensitive people like you go from spinning their wheels like I had been doing for years to balancing their high sensitivity and then to thriving with it. It all came full circle when I was coaching an HSP a couple of years ago when I was going through my training, and he was saying that he was picking up his clients' emotions. He had a rule that we discovered that you show care by feeling other people's feelings with them. Throughout the session, we got to this point where I finally asked him, how is that rule serving you? That you have to feel other people's emotions to show you care. And he realized that it actually doesn't serve him. It makes his job more difficult and less effective to take on all that extra stuff from the clients instead of protecting his own energy. When you're weighed down by other people's emotions, you don't have any energy left to actually support them to grow for themselves. I got to use the same wisdom that I had gotten from Counselor Ann almost a decade ago to turn around and help another highly sensitive person change his life too. That's when I realized there is just nothing else I would rather do than help my clients level up with my super focused attention and energy, which are our highly sensitive superpowers for many of us. And for that reason, that's why I love to do one-on-one coaching with my clients. We get that really deep, focused attention, and I get to build that connection with my clients so that they feel really fully supported as they go through the baby steps of changing their habits and building new skills. I'm also doing monthly classes, webinars, and workshops so that I can help share new skills and techniques because, as I said, I'm always learning. So anything that I can take and use and share with the highly sensitive crowd for our particular needs and challenges, I want to do that so that every highly sensitive person can benefit from it. And now we have this free resource too. That is quite the journey from surviving with high sensitivity, then to managing it, and then to thriving with it, if I do say so myself, which I do. And that's why I want to help you thrive with it too. I thought I was just a nerdy weirdo who cried at books and TV shows and got super invested in fictional characters and loved getting lost in a good fantasy novel. I thought I was kind of alone, except for a few people, until I became a magnet for other HSPs. And that's when I realized that there's not only a place for all of us, but the world needs more highly sensitive people in it to use our voices and to thrive. We need more people like you and me who can empathize and understand people easily, who can pull ideas together in new ways, and who care deeply about the world and making it a better place than we found it. There is a lot of divisiveness and there are a lot of things going on our planet right now. And it could really benefit from someone who is paying careful attention and putting our full energy and our intuition and our senses into it the way that we highly sensitive people do. The world needs highly sensitive people to share our gifts now more than ever. So if you felt like me, like you were just kind of alone, you didn't really fit into any groups, and you felt like you were kind of on the outskirts, you are part of this club now. You are welcome in the Highly Sensitive Club, and you are definitely not alone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. In other episodes, I'm dropping a couple at the same time about what high sensitivity is and isn't. I highly recommend that you go and listen to those so that you have a little bit more information. And I hope to see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to Stephanie Lynn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.